Are you guys warm enough? Yeah, enough? Sort of. Too warm? Who said too warm? You're crazy, Kendra. Okay. I'm freezing up here. I need to warm up my hands a little bit. Well, glad you guys are here tonight. Again, it's good worshiping with you. Hey, right to start off tonight, I'd love for us to just read Hebrews together. This is kind of like we said last week, our theme, I guess, verse for this series, In Pursuit, that we're talking about. It's week 2, and excited to just spend a few minutes talking together. But I'd love to just start out reading Hebrews chapter 12, the first 2 verses. It's on the back of your outline. I think we got it on the screen. Gracie, it's somewhere in there. But I'd love for us. Can we read it together? I need a little more convincing. Yes, can we read it together? Great. Let's read it together. Again, it's on your outlines. It's on the screen. No excuses. Let's read it together. Here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. So, this is what we're talking about over the next few weeks. At the top of 2021, this is what we want to do. We want to put aside everything that's holding us back, that just like we sang about, just like Megan talked about, that we can run after Jesus with nothing held back. Like it says, since we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, he just got done in Hebrews, he just got done talking about all these people who walked in faith and followed God, who ran after God with everything that they were, that they may not have it all together, they may not have been perfect people, but they ran after God with nothing held back. And he says, because of that, we should put aside everything that's holding us back and run after Jesus. Can we do that? Come on, we got to say that with a little more excitement. Can we do that? Yes, good. All right. Well, we're going to do that. And one of the things that I want to talk about today, the things that we need to lay aside, is the pursuit of perfection. The question that I want us to ask tonight is, how can we set aside the pursuit of perfection to pursue Jesus instead? Because I think a lot of us are stuck running after being perfect instead of running after Jesus. And I want us to see that pursuit of Jesus is all about direction, not perfection. And that's really what we want to talk about. It's about direction. Can we say this? Direction, not perfection. Direction, not... on 3. 1, 2, 3. Direction, not perfection. And tonight I want us to kind of talk about how we get stuck in this perfectionist way of living. I mean, how many of you would call yourself a perfectionist? Okay, it's okay. You can admit it. I am too. Okay, I mean, for example, okay, I really like when my truck is clean. All right, like I love it when it's clean. It's good. It's nice. And so I went and I got it. I washed it on Monday. I think it was Monday was the holiday, right? I washed it on Monday. Okay, Monday afternoon. Went and got it washed, vacuumed it out because it had been 2 weekends that I hadn't 2 weeks, I think, that I hadn't washed it. Gone hunting. There's dirt. There's gross stuff, blood, duck blood, everything, all in the truck. And so I went and I cleaned it out. It all looked nice. The outside looked great. It was shiny. Everything. Woke up Monday afternoon, parked it in the driveway. Didn't go anywhere. Monday night, Tuesday morning, woke up. And I'm angry because I walk outside, I open the garage, and my truck is covered in like water spots. Like somehow it just rained or something the night before. Did it rain on Monday night? Yeah. See, I was angry. Like I just had washed my truck and I wanted it to be perfect, wanted it to be nice. And now you can go look at it. There's water spots and dirt everywhere all over the side of it. Because, right, the perfectionist in us, this is how we live, right? I'm guilty of it. But here's what perfectionism is. Perfectionism is a covering of our deepest insecurities, fears, and sinfulness. The pursuit of perfection, running after this image of being perfect, it's a covering of our deepest insecurities, fears, and even our sinfulness. I mean, think about it. We talked a little bit about Adam and Eve last week, if you guys remember. And if you look back at at Adam and Eve, what did they do? What was their problem? Everything was good and fine, and God said, you can't what? Come on, I know you heard the story. You can't what? Eat, thank you. Eat from the fruit of these specific trees, right? And then what did they do? They ate the fruit, and then all of a sudden they found out that now they see that they're naked, right? And they're sitting in the garden, they have this shame, and it says that God shows up, and they run and they hide from God, and it says in their shame, what do? They cover themselves. They find something to cover themselves. And so in their sinfulness, in their insecurity, and in their fear, they cover themselves. And this is what we do with perfection. This is how we pursue perfection. So what I want to do is I want to read a short story out of the book of Luke. It's in Luke chapter 10. If you got a Bible, you can turn there. It'll be on the screen. I think I put it on the outline too. It's on there. Perfect. And so you'll see it there. But if you got a Bible, you can turn there too. And while I turn, I want to identify at the top, because at the top I want to identify 3 different types of perfectionists. And someone smarter than me, way smarter than me, identified these, and I think they're really helpful. And so you guys ready for these? Yeah? I actually didn't put these on the outline, sorry, but you can write these down. Okay, they're on the screen, actually. But here's the 3, all right? And you'll recognize these probably in yourself. You'll probably recognize these even in this story that we read. Here's the first one. Self-oriented perfectionist. They're a little bit big words, but a self-oriented perfectionist. And here's what this perfectionist does. They have unrealistic expectations of yourself. And so you hold really high expectations of yourself. You often feel guilty and often obsess over things to the point of being inefficient, of not finishing things. I mean, procrastinating. How many of us procrastinate? Yes, because it has to be perfect, right? Guys, I'm guilty of this one, right? It's got to be perfect. It can't get done until it's perfect. And we hold this really high standard of ourselves. That's self-oriented perfectionist. We see this in ourselves. Here's the second one, all right? Externally oriented perfectionist. Again, they're a little bit bigger words, but we're going to explain them. Externally oriented perfectionist. Really, this is believing that others, it's our belief that others expect you to be perfect. It's thinking that they expect me to put this image that I am perfect. And so often you feel alone or depressed because you can't live up to the expectations that they have for you, or at least the expectations you think that they have for you. And so we walk around and we feel like we can't be ourselves because we think that people expect more from us. And then here's the third one. It's others-oriented perfectionist. Others-oriented perfectionist. And really this is expecting others to live up to your impossible standards. Expecting other people to live up to your impossible standards. So what you do is you tear other people down, or you use demeaning humor. You make fun of people when they don't meet your standards, right? So you hold really high expectations for other people. Guys, I'm going to be honest with you right now. I am every single one of those, all right? I can be every single one of those at any given season with anybody, all right? I am so guilty of every single one of those. And I'm convinced that a lot of us are too. Even if we don't say that I'm a perfectionist, or I often try to be a I think that a lot of us identify with one of these, all right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at this story. It's a short story in Luke chapter 10. That we see this perfectionist come out and we see Jesus do something really interesting. It's this quick interaction, and I love it. So Luke chapter 10, we're going to read it together. All right? You ready? You don't have to read it with me. I'll just read it to you. Here we go. It says this in verse 38. Now as they went on their way, Jesus entered a village. And it says a woman named Martha, what's her name? Martha. A woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. Who welcomed him? Martha welcomed Jesus into her house. And it says that she had a sister called who? She had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. But it says Martha, what does it say? What's that word? Martha was what? Distracted with much serving. It says that she went up to Jesus and she said, Lord, don't you care that my sister's left me to serve alone? Tell her to help me. You see the perfectionist coming out. And it says, but the Lord answered her, Martha, Martha. I love when Jesus uses people's names twice. He's like, you better listen, right? Martha, Martha. He says, you are anxious and troubled about many things. You're anxious and troubled about many things. But he says, but one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion, which will not be taken away from her. And guys, I want us to see that perfection gets in our way of running after Jesus. Perfection gets in the way of us sitting with Jesus, of us getting to experience grace, the incredible grace of Jesus. Like Martha, some of us are distracted. We might feel anxious and troubled and restless because we're distracted. And Jesus says that one thing is necessary. One thing will last. And so let's talk about perfection and how we lay it aside. Does that sound good? All right, here's the first thing that I want us to see. You can write this in. It's the first fill-in. It's that the embrace of grace, we're going to be like Dr. Seuss tonight or something, right? The embrace of grace kills the pressure of perfection. The embrace of grace kills the pressure of perfection. And so here's what we see in the story. We see Martha. Who invited Jesus into her home? Was it Mary or Martha? It was Martha. Martha invited Jesus into her home, and what happens? She becomes so consumed with serving and being perfect, making everything right for Jesus, that she misses out. See, Jesus offered the same grace, the same opportunity to both Mary and Martha, and he offers grace to both of them. What is grace, by the way, right? What is grace? Grace is unearned or unmerited mercy or favor. It's something that we don't earn, something that we can't do to get back. It's a gift. It's a gift that God's given. The gift that Jesus, friendship with Jesus. That's what grace is. And Mary, Jesus offers it to both of them, but Mary embraces it by sitting at Jesus' feet. Martha thinks she's embracing it, but she becomes consumed with being perfect and putting out this image that she misses out. She misses out on this embrace. See, Jesus, Mary is not the only one that embraces grace. Jesus embraces Mary back. And Martha, again, Martha starts out great. Who invited Jesus? Martha. Martha invited Jesus into her home. That's great. And Martha was the one that invited her, but she got distracted trying to put out this picture that she's perfect. Guys, embracing grace means inviting Jesus to come and sitting with him, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's not easy. Allowing him to sit with you, allowing him to embrace you like we sang about. That's what embracing grace is. And so here's a way that we can see. You see on your outline, there's perfectionism versus grace. You see that on your outline? And what I want you to do, I'm going to give you some different ways that we can see the difference between these two. I want to put these two up next to each other, and we're going to see the difference, all right? We see this in Martha and Mary, and we see this in our lives. Okay, here's what perfectionism says. Perfectionism is all about what I do. Can you see it? I know it's small words, but perfectionism is all about what I do, what I can accomplish, my image. Martha, it's all about her serving. She comes to Jesus, hey, Jesus, don't you see that I'm doing all this stuff? Why isn't she helping me? Don't you see that it's me doing this stuff? It's all about what I do. But here's what grace is about. Grace is only about what Jesus has done. When we sit with Jesus, it can only be about him. Because when we sit with him, we recognize that it is all about him, and that what he has done is so miraculous and wild and crazy that we can't help but look at what he's done. Perfectionism is all about me. That's the next one. It's all about me. Martha, when she comes to Jesus, do you see what she said? Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her to help me. It's all about me, 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 me. But then grace is all about Jesus. It's all about giving him glory, sitting with him. Perfectionism says, if I obey, then God will love me. Perfectionism says, if I do all of these things that God says I should do, then he'll love me. But grace Grace says, because God loves me, I can obey. Grace says, because God already loves me, because God already proved his love for me, that's why I obey. That's why I do what he says I should do. That's why I follow his design. Perfectionism tries to win God's approval, distracted with much serving. Grace is living from God's approval. Am I going too fast for you? Slightly? Well, you'll be fine. You can write quick. All right? Great. Thank you, Kyle. Grace is living from God's approval. So, you can look at this. We can leave it on the screen. I know it's small, but we'll leave it on the screen for a second. All right, Gracie? Everybody give it up for Gracie. She's doing great. Thanks, Gracie. That was also just a saw for you to write. So, anyway, here's what you can use this for. We can look at this and we can see the ways that the places that we land. Okay, what am I so focused on? Am I focused on what I do? Am I focused all about me? Are my conversations all about me? Like, that's a big one for me. I constantly have to check myself because I constantly have to think about, are my conversations with people, do they become all about me? Do I easily slip into talking nonstop about me and my life rather than asking about someone else's? Yeah, I do often, and so I have to catch myself. If I obey, will God love me, win God's approval? Are those things that are running through my mind? Or am I operating out of grace? That's the question. Because listen, when we pursue perfectionism, we see that something happens to Martha. And Jesus points it out in her. What did he say? He said, Martha, Martha, you are what? Go back and look. You're anxious and what? Troubled. Martha, Martha, you're anxious and you're troubled about many things. See, perfectionism leads to anxiety and it leads to restlessness. Okay, for example, let's just do a quick example. Is that okay? Can we do that? Yeah? Okay, some of us spend so much time trying to make our lives Instagram worthy, right? We try to make our lives Instagram worthy, or maybe we can say Pinterest worthy, right, for the girls. I mean, guys, maybe you're on Pinterest too, I don't know. Okay, but or whatever, TikTok, I don't care. You name it, right? Or maybe it's just someone worthy, someone noticing me. Maybe you don't have social media. Someone noticing me, that guy, that girl, right? Whatever it is. But listen, let's just go to Instagram for a second, right? Here's the trap of pursuing this image, right? So let's say you post a picture on Instagram, right? You get the selfie going, whatever it is, right? You post the picture, or maybe it's a funny video, whatever. You post the picture. Now what? And now you're sitting on your phone, and you're just sitting there, right? And you're waiting for the likes to roll in, right? You know what I'm talking about? Because I know you do it. You sit there and you wait and you watch them. You watch them come in, each person, and then that one person comes up, and you click on them, then you click on their profile. Now you're just like into 6 different profiles. You're stalking people. You know what I'm talking? I know you do this, all right? Listen, this is what you do. You wait and you watch. And then all of a sudden it comes up, and you get a comment. Oh, man. That comment, man, that is what I'm living for, right? And it's like, oh, shoot, it's just my mom, right? Like, right? And then you look, and then it's like, oh, all the girls are like, oh, all the girls, they all say the same thing. Oh, so pretty. Oh, so cute, right? All the guys are just like, dang, bro, that's sick, right? Like, you know, like you just go look at Instagram later. These are the comments that you see, okay? Other than all the stupid arguments, like this is what you see. And so this is what we do. We wait. We watch and we wait for them to roll in. And we watch them roll up our screen, and somehow that one little like or that one comment, it makes us feel a little bit better, and it masks our insecurities just for a second. But what's the trap? Because we wait for this for 45 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, and then what happens? They start to slow down. You don't get any more comments. Your mom stops commenting about it, right? All your family members, they're all done. And then everybody else's feed is blown up with thousands of other people trying to do the same thing. Now all of a sudden yours is drowned out, and yours is gone. No more comments, no more likes. You're sitting there, nothing. And so where are you at now? You're back right where you started. And now you're back where you started, and all those likes and all those comments, all those things that masked just a little bit, the insecurities, the fears, the sinfulness, all those things that just for a second masked that, they're now gone. they don't matter that much anymore. Because now on Instagram, it just shows you that you got like 37 likes instead of showing you every single person, right? They don't matter. And now you got to do it all over again. You got to post the picture. You got to post the video. Except this time you got to make it better than last time. And not only do you got to make it better than last time, but you got to compete with all the other thousands of people that are trying to do the same exact thing. Do you see the trap? You see the trap of pursuing this image? Trying to pursue perfection. Do you see that masking our insecurities and fears and sinfulness with perfection? You see how it doesn't work? It never leads to anything. It only causes more anxiousness. It causes more stress, and it causes us to be even more troubled, just like Martha. Just like Jesus pointed out. And I wonder if he's calling it out in us tonight. And he says, hey, listen. You've been in this process. You've been in the cycle over and over and over again, trying to prove yourself to someone. But Jesus says, you're anxious and you're troubled about many things. But only one thing is necessary. Only one thing. Come sit with me. See, pursuing perfection only brings anxiousness. It brings anxiety. It brings restlessness. It brings this pressure on us to perform. And honestly, it's a pressure that we weren't meant to carry. You weren't created to carry this kind of pressure. But embracing grace brings trust and it brings rest. To embrace the person of Jesus, to allow him to embrace you, and to see that you are good, that he created you for good, on purpose and for a purpose. To embrace grace brings trust and it brings rest. Here's the reality. Our calling, God calls us not to convince people how good we are, but how good God is. We're not called to convince people that we are good. We're called to convince people that God is good. And this is great news. Because number one, this should challenge the way we live. It should challenge our life on Instagram, on TikTok, on whatever. It should challenge how we live our lives, but it should also take a little bit of pressure off. It takes this pressure off of us. Because the thing is, we can show people how good God is by embracing how we're not. Embracing the fact that I'm not that great. And if you start to do that, you feel that pressure taken off. That it's not about me being good. It's about pointing to the one who already is and always has been good. See, Paul talks about it like this. Paul, he talks about this weakness, this thorn in his flesh that he's had, and he asks God to take it from him. And in 2 Corinthians, he says it like this. Maybe I put this on your outline. He says, but Jesus said to me, he says, my grace is sufficient for you. He says, Jesus said, for my power is made what? What is that word? My power is made what? My power is made perfect in weakness. And then Paul says, therefore, I will boast all the more gladly. I'm going to brag about my weaknesses, Paul says, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. He says, for the sake of Christ, then, I am content with my weaknesses, my insults, my hardships, persecutions, and calamities. He says, for when I'm weak, then I am strong. Guys, our weaknesses reveal his strength. And embracing grace is recognize that I'm not perfect, but Jesus is and always has been, always will be. In my weakness, his power is made perfect. So maybe that's you. Maybe you've been trying to put this perfect image all over social media. Guys, we got to embrace the grace that God created you on purpose and for a purpose. Your identity will never be stable as long as it rests on comments and likes. Maybe school. Maybe school has caused all this trouble and anxiety in you because you've been trying to put up this perfect performance that you're a great student, right? And that B, that A-, that's not good enough. That's heavy on you. Gosh, we got to embrace the grace that we can celebrate a B for once in our lives. All right? I know some of you see people out there, you're like, seriously, celebrate that dang A-, right? That's how I am. That's how I've always been. Seriously. We got to celebrate what we can celebrate. Yes, work hard, but don't obsess to the point that nothing is ever good enough. And maybe you're lonely and maybe you're troubled because none of your friends or family ever live up to the expectation that you have for them. Maybe they always let you down. But we got to embrace the grace that they were never meant to fill you anyway. Jesus is. Maybe you've been trying to earn God's grace this whole time with serving or going to church or small group, looking like the good person. We got to embrace the grace, knowing that there's nothing you can do to earn it. Sit with Jesus like Mary. Embracing grace is how we let go of the pressure of perfection. Guys, I'm convinced that our lives would be so different if we stopped trying to be performers and we started being disciples. Mary sat with Jesus, and this became like a definition of what a disciple was. It says that Mary sat at Jesus' feet. That was a definition later in Scripture for what a disciple was. Someone who sits at a teacher's feet. If we want to be disciples, we got to sit at Jesus' feet, embracing his grace. Now, there's two relationships that perfectionism strains. So I want to talk about those real quickly, and then we'll be done. The first is we got to talk about our relationship with Jesus. Because a lot of us, we're trying to put on this good performance so that Jesus will love us. Again, a lot of us, our lives would be different if we stopped trying to perform for Jesus and started being disciples of him. All that pressure would be taken off. And so here's what we need to do. We need to sit in perfect love instead of running after perfect performance. Sit in perfect love instead of running after perfect performance. Guys, perfection turns a good thing into an ultimate thing. Perfection turns a good thing into a god. I mean, think about it. Martha, what did it say she was? She invited Jesus into her home, and then she was what? Distracted with? Go back and look at it. She was distracted with? Serving. She was distracted with much serving. Now, is serving a bad thing? No. But because she was so obsessed with being perfect, it became a god to her. It became something she obsessed over, and we got to sit at the feet of Jesus. Here's a question that I want us to ask ourselves, and I'm going to explain it, but I just want to ask this question of us. Have we turned? It's a question that someone asked me, and I think that it's one that is good for us to ask. Have we turned faith in Jesus into a role to be perfected rather than a relationship to be discovered? Have we turned faith in Jesus into a role to be perfected instead of a relationship to be discovered? Let me explain for a second, all right? I used to work at Tilly's. Anybody go to Tilly's? Okay, like 5 of you. Probably you hate going to Tilly's because everybody tries to talk to you and they're annoying, right? Yes? Anybody? Yes? Okay, they're so annoying. I hate going in there. Okay, but I used to work in there, and I used to be that guy, all right? So I worked at Tilly's, and there were moments, especially at the beginning, where I wanted to be the best, clothes salesperson, I guess, so that I could get noticed by these management people. So I was that guy. I wanted to try to be this perfect salesperson so that people would notice me. Maybe I could get a promotion, whatever, right? So I worked hard at perfecting that role. I would talk to people all the time when they didn't want to be talked to. I was the guy that came up to you and hey, how you doing? Hey, how's your family doing? Hey, right? I was the intrusive guy that was just so annoying that you're like, dude, I don't want to talk. I don't need your help right now, right? That's literally the reason I don't shop at Tilly's, because I hate that fact. I was the guy who came up and tried to sell you clothes that you didn't want to buy, right? Like throwing clothes over the changing room because I'm like, hey, I think you'd like this, right? You know what I'm talking? Addie knows, she's making the face. She knows exactly what I'm talking about, right? I was that guy. I tried to take as many shifts at work that I could because I wanted people to think that I was a hard worker, and I did it all because I wanted to be noticed. I did more of this. I was the guy that, when you go up to their cash register and you're like, bro, I just want to leave. I've been here for too long. You've been asking me way too many questions. And they're like, oh, you want to join our loyalty program? And it's like, no, I'm good, right? And they're like, oh, are you sure? You get all these. And they convince you, right? You're like, dude, if you'll just shut up, then yes, I'll give you my dang email. I was that guy, okay? It was the worst. But I was trying to perfect this role when people were watching. The thing is, it didn't last. There was a season, it was a short season, I worked hard at trying to be perfect, perfecting this role so I could get noticed, but it was all to perform for the people watching me. It didn't last long because I got tired of performing for people. I got burnt out because I didn't believe in what I was doing. I didn't really enjoy it. I just did it to get noticed. It wasn't a great motivation. And here's the thing. This is how some of us treat our relationship with Jesus. That we walk around and we do all the things that we think we're supposed to do. Go to church, we serve, we get all the right answers, we go to small group, and we're convinced that we got to have all the right answers when someone asks us a question. We got to do all the right things. Oh no, I never do anything bad. Oh man, I'm sorry, you guys, but right? And we put up this image that we got to perfect this role of being a Christian rather than being a disciple and sitting at Jesus' feet and discovering what it looks like to sit with Jesus. Guys, we somehow think that we can earn our way to heaven. We can earn our way to relationship with Jesus, but he doesn't want that. This is what the Pharisees were, and this is what he called out in them. Stop trying to earn your way. I just want you to come to me. Come sit with me. Martha, stop getting distracted in the kitchen and just come be with me. And so many of us are distracted trying to put up this role that we miss out on discovering the relationship. Galatians says it this way. Paul says it like this. He says, I don't treat the grace of God as meaningless. He says, for if keeping the law could make us right with God, then there was no need for Christ to die. Here's what he's saying. He's saying that if we live to prove our perfection to Jesus, then if we live to put up this image that we're good enough, then that means we're saying grace is meaningless. We don't need you, Jesus. When we try to perform, what we're saying is, Jesus, what you did on the cross wasn't good enough for me. I got to do more. Jesus, when you went to the cross for me, when you defeated death, that wasn't good enough. I got to put myself up on that cross, and I got to do everything I can to get this role right. And this is what we do. And Jesus and Paul says if there was no need for Christ to die if we think that we need to perfect this role. If we can be perfect, then why did Jesus have to die? But the truth is we can't. We all sin. We all mess up. Scripture is absolutely clear that we are screw-ups. Right? We all fall short of God's standard. That's what Romans says. We've all messed up. Listen, we can't experience God's grace. We can't experience God's grace until you stop believing the lie that we're not that bad. Okay, listen, until you see yourself as a sinner, you'll never see your need for a Savior. Until you see yourself as a sinner, you'll never see your need for a Savior. And some of us, we have to stop trying to perform to earn grace. Remember, it's about direction, not perfection. Mary sat at the Lord's feet and listened. And this is our job, to discover, to learn, to sit and listen, to be a disciple. You'll never do enough to earn God's grace. And so maybe tonight, maybe embracing grace tonight looks like making that decision for the first time to follow Jesus. All he does, you don't have to have it all together. You don't have to be perfect. He just desires that you come to him. Come sit with him. Come sit in his grace. Ask him to come live with you. If that's a decision you want to make, man, come talk to me. Come talk to one of our leaders. We're going to sing another song in a minute, and I would love for you to just come grab one of us, and we'd love to pray with you and talk with you. We need to sit in perfect love instead of running after perfect performance. Here, I'm going to give you the last fill-in, and then we're going to sing again, okay? Here's the last fill-in. We need to choose to be present over performing. Choose to be present over performing. Because here's what perfection does. It affects our relationships with people. Mary and Martha, right? Martha goes off, she invites Jesus in, but then she goes off and she's serving, distracted with serving, trying to perform. And she misses out on relationship with Jesus and her sister. And now she's angry with her sister. And so many of us are distracted with being great and putting up this image that we can't connect with people. Guys, perfection is the enemy of connection. We can't connect with people unless we let down that image of being perfect. We choose to connect with one another. I had a friend who did this at Sunshine. I'll just tell you the story and then we'll be done. Does that sound good? I had a friend when I worked for Houseboats, and this is what he did. Him and I, like I told you, I can be a perfectionist. I can like things a certain way to a bad point, like it's not great. And he was the same way, except if I'm like here, he was like way over here. Like he was not good, right? And so what we had to do as drivers is we would have to stack up you guys know the Mikey? Yeah, we had to stack all the ski equipment in the Mikey, right? And so he would say, all right, I got it all in there, and it's got to be perfect, because I know the right way to do it. Literally, I mean, this is what he would say. And him and I, we would pair up as drivers, and we'd have the same ski equipment. And so he expected me to stack everything perfectly like he did. And then I would go in there and I would do something different. I'd move, the knee board over here instead of right here, and then it would be right, and it would not be right. And he'd get angry with me. I'm like, bro, like it's not that big of a deal. It's just a knee board, right? And one time I actually went to him and I said, hey, you know that like people do things differently? And no joke, not even kidding. This is what he said to me. I just don't understand that. He was so consumed with perfection that he let it affect his relationships. And he walked around cranky. He walked around angry. He walked around correcting people. And so what I had to do is I had to have a conversation with him and just say, hey, man, I'm sorry that I am putting this perfection on you. I'm sorry that I'm putting this on you, but we got to figure this out. And I remember we were driving back in a ski boat, like middle of the day. And I remember I was sitting in the passenger seat, he was driving. He just started crying. Because it was like this giant weight was lifted off his shoulders. And no joke, guys, I'm not, he went from, after that conversation, it was one of the most awkward conversations I've ever had to have with someone. But the most beneficial. When I chose to step out and just ask him a question and just have a conversation and address this, that weight was lifted off of both of us. And he went back and he was having a party. Literally, I mean, he was jumping off the roof. He was laughing for once. Like he was having fun. And both of us, our summer was so much better when we let go of that the obsession of perfection. And some of us are holding on to that. See, maybe you need to let go of the unrealistic and impossible expectations you've put on other people. Maybe you need to let go of the impossible expectations you put on yourself. And so you can stop being self-centered, and so you can stop focus on putting up that image. Maybe you need to let go of the impossible expectations that you think other people are putting on you, so that you can actually connect with one another. So how do you put aside perfection? Guys, we got to embrace grace. Mary and Martha, Jesus offers the same grace, the same opportunity. Come and sit with me. Martha took it. Mary took it. Martha hopefully took it after. So what are we going to do tonight? We're going to sing another song, and I hope that we would sit at the feet of Jesus. That, like we sang about earlier, and like we're going to sing again, that we just choose to surrender our life to Him. Everything. Not the things that we want to perform, not holding back the things we want to perform and we want to prove ourselves with, but giving Him everything. Can we do that? Guys, let's be people. Let's be people who are in constant, nothing held back, passionate pursuit of Jesus. Can we be those people? Let's be those people. Let's pray. Jesus, thank you that you give us permission to let go of being perfect. Jesus, thank you. Thank you that you come to us and you say, listen, you're anxious and you're troubled about many things. But Jesus, thanks that you say one thing is necessary. One thing will last. I pray that tonight we'd recognize that one thing is just sitting with you at your feet. Jesus, that there's nothing better than to allow ourselves to be embraced by your grace. Jesus says, whatever it is that's holding us back, would tonight be the change, be the moment that we can choose to surrender that thing, to fall on our knees in front of you and say, you are so good, and I am so not, and I need you. Jesus, would we be people that pursue you with nothing held back? Would that be what we're known